All right, today's lesson is going to be on absolute value equations. We are going to keep these pretty simple today, and tomorrow we'll make them a little more complicated. So remember, the writing in red is what will be important for your math notebook, and pause this video whenever you need to. So our goals are to solve algebraic equations for positive and negative values, and to understand absolute value. So the equations will be pretty basic today, but the absolute value will be important. So absolute value is defined as the distance from zero. So when we talk about distance, we always have a positive value, right? The distance from your house to school, if it's 5 miles to school, it's also 5 miles back. We don't go a negative 5 miles in any direction. So the most simple definition of absolute value is that it cannot be negative. So distance cannot be negative. Which means, if you look at these two little examples, the absolute value symbol are these two parallel lines, like this. And inside, we treat them like parentheses, but it means that the value is going to be positive. So for number one, the absolute value of 4 is just 4, because that means it's 4 units away from 0. But if we have on number 2 the absolute value of negative 4, so if we're at negative 4 on the number line, that still means we are 4 units from 0. So the positive and negative version of the absolute value comes out as a positive. So what this means is during our equations, we're going to have two answers for each of our problems, because inside these parentheses, like for number one, a very simple one, we want our answer to either be 16 or negative 16. Because if our answer is negative 16, that means the absolute value of negative 16 is also positive 16. So for these simple ones, we're just going to set it up. We're going to write it as two different equations. We're going to make it x plus 4 equals 16. And we also want x plus 4 to equal negative 16. Solve these, very simple. We're subtracting 4 from both sides. Our first answer is x equals 12, because if we did 12 plus 4, we would get 16. So x equals 12 is our first answer. And for our second answer, we're still subtracting 4 from both sides, and we're going to get x equals negative 20. And you are going to need both of those answers to get full credit. And if we plugged in negative 20 to our equation, if we said negative 20 plus 4, that would equal negative 16. The absolute value of negative 16 equals 16, because the absolute value is always positive. So you're going to be solving these basic equations, but you're going to have two correct answers for each problem. I'll go through quite a few examples before giving you a chance, just because we'll slowly make it a little tougher. All right, so question 2, they give us the absolute value, which means we don't have to do much, but we're going to write equations as 2x plus 3 equals 15, and over here, 2x plus 3 equals negative 15, because we want to find a positive version of our answer and a negative version. So simple math, minus 3, 2x equals 12, divide by 2, and x equals 6 for our first answer. And for our negative version, subtract 3 from both sides. We get 2x equals negative 18. Divide both sides by 2, and x equals negative 9. So my two answers are x equals positive 6 and x equals negative 9. If we plug in those values for x, we'll get the answers of 15 and negative 15. And because it's an absolute value, they both turn out to be positive. All right, we have a number outside of the absolute value, which means that it is being multiplied. What we could do is we could distribute, but that would probably not be the easiest way to go. We really want the absolute value to be isolated. So what we're going to do is at the beginning, we're going to divide both sides by 3, and we'll end up with the absolute value of x minus 5 is equal to 8. And now we can work out our two equations of x minus 5 equals 8 and x minus 5 equals negative 8. So again, looking for the positive and negative version. Add 5 to both sides here, we get x equals 13. Add 5 to both sides here, we get x equals negative 3 for our two answers. And if we plug in those values to the original equation, we'll find that we get a total of positive 24 and negative 24. Similar idea here. The 4 is being multiplied by the absolute value of 2x plus 6. So we're going to divide both sides by 4. We end up with the absolute value of 2x plus 6 equals 10. And then we can rewrite the negative version as the absolute value of 2x plus 6 equals negative 10. And really we can, we're going to erase those just to be a little more efficient. Subtract 6, 2x equals 4, x equals 2. Subtract 6, 2x equals negative 16, x equals negative 8. Two answers. All right. Final example before you get to try. We have a plus 9 over here. We're going to get rid of that right away. Because again, we're trying to get our absolute value all by itself. That'll leave us with absolute value of 4 times the absolute value of 3x minus 2 is equal to 56. Divide both sides by 4, and we end up with the absolute value of 3x minus 2 equals 14. I don't know why I made that a parentheses. So from here, our two equations will be 3x minus 2 equals 14, and 3x minus 2 equals negative 14. And if we solve this, we get x equals 16 thirds on this end, and x equals negative 4 on this end. So fairly simple algebra after we do the absolute value. All right, finally letting you have a turn. Go ahead and pause this video and try it. Maybe you've been doing that already. All right, I would add 3 to both sides first. I would end up with 8 times the absolute value of 2x plus 2 equaling 16. Divide both sides by 8. Absolute value of 2x plus 2 equals 2. So my two equations would be 2x plus 2 equals 2 and 2x plus 2 equals negative 2. Solve this, we get x equals 0 and x equals negative 2. One more example. Go ahead and pause it and try it. After you do this problem, you can come get your worksheet or your assignment is online. Subtract 5 from both sides. So 6 times the absolute value of x minus 3 equals 24. Divide both sides by 6. Absolute value of x minus 3 equals 4. So my equations are x minus 3 equals 4 and x minus 3 equals negative 4. X equals 7 and x equals negative 1. So 2 answers for each of these. I know that you can do these in a couple different ways, but pick one that you like.